I've got to go to drinks. Yeah, I know that's happening again. See ya. Bye. Hey everyone. Hey, there's 18 of you. How fantastic. Hi Kachi. Hello Rob. Lovely to see you. And John, great to see you. Hello Craig. Oh, gosh, I've missed you all. How nice to see you again on this beautiful sunny day. I was a bit worried that everyone was going to go running out to their freedom, all of you Victorians anyway, but it is Thursday night, so it's a good excuse to stay and have a glass of wine. Hi Kay, lovely to see you. Well, welcome back. Happy 2021. It's all happening again. Oh, Craig. It's nice to have a little holiday. It gives us things to talk about when we come back. So lots of talking today because I was like, oh, what am I going to talk about? I'm sure there'll be plenty. So what's going on? What's happened? Hi, Emily. Great to see you. There's been lots going on. It's a beautiful sunny day. We've had a really crummy summer, as most of you are very aware here. But surprisingly, it has actually meant that the vines have just kind of chugged along, doing their thing, and the grapes are ripening beautifully. G'day, Samantha. I hope everything's beautiful where you are. And the vines have been chugging away, and the nets are all on, and we are about to start picking grapes. Isn't that crazy? It's ridiculous. It's so we're going to pick our first batch of, I think it's young vine Chardonnay on Monday. So we are madly getting the winery ready for vintage, and Jeremy's running around making sure that everything's looking beautiful and spick and span. We've got the lovely David, who I think some of you will have met over summer if you came down to Celador. He's been working in our Celador, and he's going to be doing vintage with us this year. So he's out of his Celador clothes and into his grotty vintage clothes. Hi, David, if you're there. Linda's getting into her support mode. Hello, Linda. I'm sure you're there having a little glass of Pinot. And Jeff also is going to be hopefully doing a bit of multitasking and getting his hands dirty in the grapes, as well as being front of house for Celador. Well, for any of you guys who want to come on down and join us. If you are coming down, please, if you can let us know, then we can try and make sure that there's something, that we're ready for you, that we can show you something. During vintage, it does get a little bit stressful sometimes, and we get a little bit tired, but we love having visitors. And when we're not really under the pump, we love showing people what we're doing and a few ferments and that kind of thing. It's one of the lovely things about having our little club here who gets together, little wine club tasting group. So let us know, let Jeff know, and we'll do everything we can to show you a ferment, that kind of thing. Shell and Andrew, King Lake, how beautiful! And I'm so glad that you guys got to go away. I was very nervous this week about lockdown potentially being dragged out a little bit longer, as we've seen it happen before, but I think everyone's in a very happy place at the moment, being allowed to get out and about and go on little trips away, and hopefully take a little bottle of Moorooduc Estate wine with you. So one of our big issues this year is that we just don't make enough different wines at Moorooduc Estate to just keep doing new wines every week. So I did as you all know, we did an extensive survey earlier in the year, and I got some really good feedback. Okay, Sharpie and Rod and Ben, hello, lovely to see you guys. Welcome back. So I asked your opinion, and I got some really lovely feedback. If you haven't given me your feedback yet, but you feel strongly about it, please feel free to send me an email or whatever, and let me know. But generally, people have said that they're quite happy to revisit wines that we've drunk together before. It's quite nice to go back to wines sort of 6 months later and see how they're evolving. We are going to have some new release wines, obviously, this year, so that'll kind of sprinkle in some different things. And also just trying to do something a little bit different with maybe some food and wine matching, thinking about temperature control, maybe some different glassware, that sort of thing. And there was a lot of support from the people who responded to doing the occasional aperitif, digestive, or cocktail sort of every 6 weeks or so. So we can sprinkle those in as well. We're also going to be coming up to our 1-year anniversary next month. Isn't that amazing? We started this in March last year, so I think we'll have to celebrate that somehow, but we'll work that out closer to the time. In the meantime, I think I need some wine in my glass. I took my own advice and I put my wine in the fridge and forgot to take it out, so it's quite cold. And you can see there's a lot of condensation on there, but it's hot and muggy here today, so it's going to warm up really quickly. So let's get that 2017 Pinot open. Got that little crack. I was so excited about opening it. Didn't even give it any due ceremony. In the glass, Pinot glass today. You'll be unsurprised to see. And already I can feel it warming up as it pours out. So there we go. Jill and Richard have taken the dogs for a walk. They'll be back probably in about 15 minutes or so. So they'll be barking and carrying on. They can have a glass of wine. I also have some cheese because I suggested that you guys got some cheeses. If you haven't got cheeses, if you don't have the wine yet, that's all absolutely fine. You remember, we're not prescriptive here. It's just about getting together, having a drink on a Thursday night, enjoying each other's company. I try and kind of take us on a little journey somewhere, but sometimes we get distracted along the way. So cheese and Pinot Noir matching. First of all, I'm going to say cheers to you. Happy New Year. Happy, what are we up to? Happy February. And also, oh, Sarah, hi. I know the whole live chat thing, it's all a bit tricky, isn't it? We'll get used to it again. But it's fine if I always get people giving me a little text and sending me pictures and things. So I'm getting back into my multitasking as well. So cheers. So it's a little bit cold, and just remembering that when we chill red wine, what we're going to do is we do cool down the flavours, so you get sort of slightly more red fruit, slightly more restrained fruit flavours, but also the tannins are augmented by being chilled. So in a wine like this, which has got a lot of flavour, it's got really good body, but it does have quite a lot of tannin as well, because we like tannin here at Moorooduc Estate. We'll talk about tannin more during this year's conversations, because I think I've certainly mentioned it before, but I think that we don't really discuss why I'm so obsessed with tannin in Pinot Noir, and I think that that's something that we can have a bit more of a talk about. You'll probably be unsurprised to hear that I like wine with texture, whether it be red wine or white wine. And with red wine, the tannin brings the texture, it also brings the savouriness, but it also brings some bitterness. So when you chill your red wine down, the tannins become more obvious, they become firmer, and they also become a little bit bitterer. So I quite like that. I quite like a bit of bitterness in my life. I'm a bit of a black olive girl, but if it's feeling a bit closed and a bit bitter and a bit savoury, it's probably a little bit too cold. So you can use your warm hand on this warm day just under the bowl and just swirl it around with your hand touching the glass for a little while, and that's going to warm it up really quickly. So don't go too far, because warm Pinot Noir is really depressing, I think. And the only way you can come back from warm Pinot Noir is either putting it back in the fridge, or you are allowed, this is sacrilege, absolute sacrilege, so some people are going to gasp when I say this, but you're allowed to do whatever you like in the privacy of your own home. That's one of the wonderful things about these drinks with Kate. But if you're in dire need, a block of ice, one, not like a whole slurry of ice, but one block of ice in a red wine that's a little bit too warm will make a huge difference to your enjoyment of it. And it will dilute it a little bit, because the ice will melt and the water will dilute the flavour of the wine. So that's why you don't want to put too much ice in, and why it's better to cool it down by putting the whole bottle on ice or in the fridge. But if you're in really dire circumstances, one little piece of ice will actually make all the difference too. whether you actually enjoy the wine or find it to be really kind of warm and soupy. Soupy, but some people look at me as though I'm mad when I say soupy, but you kind of lose all that lovely fresh bright fruit, and it gets kind of that sort of cooked, jammy, slightly sickly texture. Craig, you are just all over this tannin conversation, and yes, a lot of Yarra Pinots have less tannin and are good on you, Alison. That's fantastic. Cheers again. Craig, yes, a lot of Yarra Pinots are a little bit lighter, creamier, less tannins, and this is on purpose. And one of the reasons for this is because we're all concerned growing Pinot Noir in this modern time that it's possibly in the warmer years, and we're getting more of the warmer years in summer, and, you know, things are getting warmer all the time, that we're going to lose the elegance and the delicacy of Pinot Noir. So one of the advantages that we have here on the Mornington Peninsula is that because we're surrounded by water on three sides, that cools things down significantly and just gives us the opportunity to ripen our grapes a little bit more slowly in a cooler environment than the Yarra Valley, for example. Hello, Jeff, you made it. Excellent work. So Mornington Peninsula, sort of longer, slower, cooler ripening period. The Yarra Valley is a little bit warmer because they're a bit further inland, and they get affected a bit more by the heat in a hot summer. And a lot of Yarra Valley producers are mitigating that effect by picking their grapes a little bit earlier and or minimizing their tannin extraction during winemaking. So what I mean by that is when we make Pinot Noir, we get our grapes and we get rid of the stalks, and the grapes go into the fermenter. And once they start fermenting, we stir it twice a day. And what that means is that because when wine is fermenting, it produces carbon dioxide, it pushes all the skins up to the surface, and then the wine and the skins are not in contact with each other. All the tannins are in the skins. So those solids, that bitterness, that structure are in the skins of the grapes. The way that you get the tannin out of the skins into the wine is by mixing it up. It's like dunking a tea bag. If you get a tea bag and you dunk it up and down, or you get loose tea and you stir it, you extract a lot more of the tannins as well as the flavour. Now, if you've got too much tannin and your Pinot is a little bit is grown somewhere where you think it might be a little bit too warm, then the tannin can overwhelm the delicacy and the perfume of the Pinot, and you'll get a wine that loses its Pinot-like quality or pinosity, which is a word. I used to pretend that I'd made it up, but enough other people in the world use it now that I think I probably didn't, but it's a great word. So the Pinot characteristic of that lovely lifted perfume, that intense but delicate fruit flavour, and tannins that are in balance with all of that, as well as acid that's in balance with all of that. Here on the Mornington Peninsula, we think we can work our tannins and our skins with our wine a little bit harder still. So we stir twice a day during the whole of the ferment. Most modern Yarra Valley producers will stir a lot less or not at all. I know people who just submerge the skins below the surface of the wine with a big water bag that they put on top of the skins. It pushes the skins down so that they don't dry out, and they are extracting a little bit of the flavour and the colour and the tannins from the skins, but they're not mixing it up the way that we like to. So they're not extracting that tannin intensity. They're scared that that tannin is going to overwhelm the wine. We actually think that here, from this vineyard, it adds to the savouriness and the structure and the deliciousness of the wine, and also makes it much better for matching to food, which is a wonderful segue to our cheese tasting. See, we're getting back into the hang of this. We're going to have a little, how's your wine? Is it warming up a little bit? I think probably, Kachi, it probably, if it was feeling a bit, closed, then if you're letting it warm up, even swirling it in this warm weather, I don't know, we don't have air conditioning here. Oh, Shell, you'll be all right. It's a glass that gets the liquid into your mouth so that you don't have to drink it direct from the bottle. It's the most important thing. You can drink it out of jam jars if you want to. But we do like our Pinot glasses. They are rather gorgeous. And they do accentuate the perfume of the wine. You can't carry glasses with you when you're going on holiday all the time, although I'll let you in on a secret. Mum and Dad do. Sometimes when we go to Europe, they go out and they buy glasses and they carry them around the whole time. I do too. We're silly like that. Anyway. Anyway, so as the wine's warming up, I'm getting more of that black cherry aroma coming out of it, and I'm getting more of the violet. It's just opening up more and more. And I think on the palate, that's almost perfect temperature now because the tannins have receded a little bit. It's still quite crunchy, like eating a crunchy plum, crunchy cherries. It's certainly not, it doesn't have that sort of squishy jamminess. It doesn't feel hot. It's still nice and cool in the mouth. It's just kind of a really lovely, refreshing wine to drink on a warm day. Now, geez, how's it looking, guys? Is it warming up a little bit? Is it looking better, changing, evolving? I think also the tannin conversation, a lot of people thought that people are texting me. Oh, Jeff. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'll look at pictures of people's food later. I don't want to get distracted. Deb, remembering to smell with your mouth open. Excellent. That's correct. Smell with your mouth open. And also, once the wine goes into your mouth, it immediately heats up because we're all a bit hot and bothered in this hot weather. So very quickly you warm the wine up to mouth temperature. So if you hold it in your mouth a little bit and swirl it and swoosh it and stuff, then you also get more out of the perfume and the texture as it warms up in your mouth. All right. I believe we have a new member of the group. I don't know if you've signed on to the chat or not, but I believe Keely is joining us for the first time today. So hi, Keely. Welcome to Drinks with Kate. Lovely to see you. As you can see, we've got a very enthusiastic team of supporters and chatters, and please feel free to ask questions if you've worked out how to use the live chat and if you'd like to join in, but don't feel that you have to. It's good, isn't it, Kay? I'm glad you like that. Doesn't it? Kaji, tannin can come from the seeds, but we try to avoid that because we try to avoid that because if you crush the seeds, then you get really bitter oils and tannins, and they're not the sort of, it's too much. It's not what we're looking for. So ideally, we don't crush the seeds. But the seeds stay intact and they don't add significantly to the tannin load in the wine. But if you're making certain styles of wine, vintage port is a style that they actually physically walk on to extract as much tannin and colour from the skins in a really fast period of time. It's about 24 to 48 hours. They walk around on top of these grapes and really extract a lot of tannin, and they'll crush some of the seeds, and so you get a little bit of bitterness there, but then they keep a little bit of residual sugar and they fortify it as well. So it can be quite a nice addition. It's about getting the balance right though. So yeah. Okay, cheese. I keep trying to get to the cheese and I keep kind of distracting myself. So Alison, I'm glad that I think 17 degrees is the perfect temperature. I was going to bring my thermometer in and I forgot, to be perfectly honest. But I reckon mine's probably at about 17, 18 of cheese suggestions on Friday. And I will get back to sending the reminder on Monday and then the link on Thursday. And Jeff and I are working on cutting you guys into a separate mailing list so that, oh, hi, Joel, lovely to see you. Joel is one of my inspirations for comments on Instagram, so welcome. I hope you've got a glass of wine as well. When I sent you the cheese suggestions on Friday, some of the cheeses I selected were cheeses that I thought would go very well with Pinot Noir. And some of the cheeses I selected are cheeses that I specifically chose because I thought they would probably not go so well with Pinot Noir. So let's work our way through it. If you've got 3 or 4 different cheeses, Craig's got his truffle brie, and unsurprisingly, truffle brie, excellent match to Pinot Noir. So any of you who've got a nice, soft creamy brie or triple cream or something like that. That should work pretty well with this wine, although I also like those sort of cheeses with a nice Chardonnay as well. So that's a good food and wine match. A really difficult one is blue cheese. So for those of you who've got blue cheese, some of you, like I, will have, I bought some cheese from a cheese club online last Friday. They had Shadows of Blue, a wheel of Shadows of Blue on sale, and I went, we'll get that. So Mum and I bought ourselves a wheel of cheese, and I assumed that it would have arrived by now, but it hasn't. So I'm on the old Blue Castello, which is a very soft, creamy, mild. Oh, hi, Pete. Joel and Pete are cracking each other up. Excellent work. So little bit of blue cheese on my bread. So I hate eating while I'm talking to you guys because it kind of spoils the mood. But anyway, I'm going to do it for this because truffle manchego, absolutely perfect. So manchego and brie are two cheeses that work really well with Pinot Noir, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Blue cheese. If you haven't done it, let's do it together. So, full disclosure, I love blue cheese. I find it very, very difficult to match it to wine, and I think blue cheese is really particularly not good for me. And these rules are very, very much not set in stone. If you're enjoying your blue cheese with your Pinot, then by all means keep eating blue cheese with Pinot. But for me, the blue cheese makes the Pinot, it makes all the fruit go away from the Pinot, and the Pinot Noir makes the blue cheese taste really bitter and quite bitey, even a really soft blue cheese like a Blue Castello. So blue cheese for me, the perfect match for a Stilton or a, no, Jeff, we didn't mention Gruyere, that's a Chardonnay cheese. Behave. You can eat Gruyere if you want to. So Stilton, Roquefort, those really kind of tangy, acidic, bitter blue cheeses, salty blue cheeses are really good with Sauternes and Botrytis white wines, and also fantastic with vintage port. So your classic wine and cheese match is vintage port and Stilton. The English love it. They'll buy a whole wheel of Stilton and pour their port in there and guzzle and gorge themselves to stupidity with this wine and cheese, and it's a fantastic match. But Pinot Noir and blue cheese, not so good. So I'm going to put my blue cheese aside. I've got some Parmesan. I didn't say Parmesan in my list, but I think the Manchego is better with Pinot than Parmesan is. Parmesan needs a slightly richer, riper red wine. And Parmesan's one of the few cheeses that really, really works with sort of your big reds that people usually match to cheese, because it's salty and it's savoury and it's cheesy and it's all kind of nicely dried out. It works really, really well, Parmesan, with a Ricciotto from Valpolicella or an Amarone style wine. But, we'll have to all go to Italy to do that little experiment. So, there's a possibility one day, probably not this year, but we'll work ourselves up for the Italy trip sometime down the track to do that wine and cheese match. With the Pinot, so I think your brie should be delicious with it. How is the Saint-Agur, Craig, with the Pinot? It might be a bit challenging. Jeff, cashew nut vegans. Emily, look, I think some of those cashew vegan cheeses work really well, and I think they're a really good. If that's how you roll, then finding the good ones are the most important ones. And you can actually make really nice cashew cheese if you can be bothered. I don't know if you've gone down that path, Emily. I also have, oh, good, Craig. Lovely little cheese venture. Good on you, Jeff. I also have, what have I got here? Mozzarella. a little Mozzarella De Buffalo, very delicate, quite unsalted, but nice sort of curdy kind of cheese flavour. Nice texture. That works really, really nicely with the Pinot because it doesn't overwhelm the Pinot. It's quite a soft cheese flavour. Works beautifully with Pinot. So mozzarella, people don't talk about matching mozzarella to Pinot, but if you did a little kind of, you know, salad caprese with your tomatoes and your basil and your mozzarella and your olive oil, then a chilled 2017 Pinot Noir could work really, really nicely there. Oh, Craig, I'm glad that the Sénégal is working for you. A little bit of smokiness is very, really nice with Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir and smoky flavours generally work quite well together. Cashew milk, Emily. I haven't gone down that path yet, but it sounds pretty cool. Almond milk, cashew milk. When you do it yourself, it always tastes so much better. So that's my little. What else did I tell you to get cheese-wise? We had a brie. We had a blue cheese that we said was no good. Manchego. Oh, cheddar. Who's got some just plain old boring cheddar? It's actually not terrible with Pinot Noir. It's also not awesome with Pinot Noir. It's just kind of, it's okay. And to be honest with you, if it's just a plain old boring cheddar from the supermarket, then it's probably going to work with most things. And for me, I like to have a little bit of relish or something with it. And if you're having your Pinot, if you've got a little bit of if you've got some raspberry jam or some strawberry jam, I know that sounds weird, but it actually works really, really well, or a bit of cherry preserve, fantastic with your manchego or your tasty cheese. And the Pinot Noir kind of brings out all the lovely fruitiness of the wine. Oh, thanks, Craig. It's look, this is one of the things that I thought, you know, we kind of, if we get together and drink a bottle of wine together each week and you guys want to drink Moorooduc Estate wine with me mostly, then we will be repeating things, but I'll make sure that it's always delicious. So that's my promise to you. King Island cheddar, okay. Yeah, okay. Buffalo mozzarella is awesome, isn't it, Jeff? Really yummy. Yeah, Kieran, I agree with you. A good vintage cheddar does go well with most things, particularly if you have a little bit of quince paste as well. That works well. A little bit of sweetness. Hello, by the way, Kieran. Lovely to see you again. Keely, sheep's milk cheddar. That would be yummy, actually. I tell you, I think sheep's milk cheese tends to go better with Pinot Noir than cow's milk cheese, and certainly better than goat's milk cheese. So that's a little tip as well. And I love good sheep's milk cheese. The fruitosity, yes, thank you, Peter. Let's make up more words, shall we? Is anyone else hot? We don't have, so one of the problems with this dining room at Moorooduc is we don't have air conditioning here. We have very thick walls, but once it starts to heat up, it takes a long while for it to cool down again. And so I think when I was thinking about Pinot this afternoon, I was kind of thinking about it, going, oh, God, do we have to do Pinot? Maybe I can ring everyone and swap it over for the Pinot Gris or something. I'm really glad we did this because I think with that little bit of chill on it, it's very refreshing and pretty yummy. Rob, how do I think the wine's evolving? I think it is. It's actually holding really well, but I do think it's drinking better now than when we first released it. When we first released it, it was a little bit tighter. It was a bit more savoury. It was a bit more structured. As it kind of just sits in the bottle and evolves, I really like that the fruit, and it's become this sort of dark cherry fruit, whereas before I thought it was a bit of dark cherry, but it's almost going into that kirsch kind of aromatic and some violet floral perfumes, which I never saw in this wine in the early days. So I think it's kind of rounding out and becoming a little bit more voluptuous and a bit more exotic and a bit more generous in its expression. It'll be really interesting to see how it continues on. We have reasonably good stock still of the 2017, thanks to COVID last year. Despite all of our best efforts to drink as much of it as we could, there's still a little bit left that didn't get sold through restaurants the way it usually would have. So if you are enjoying it, you've got somewhere to cellar it, then I do think I do think that this wine will sell really beautifully, and I think it'll be really hitting its straps in probably about 4 to 6 years' time. That would be my prediction. It's drinking beautifully now, and it doesn't need to be cellared, but if you've got the place to cellar it and you've got the patience and you know, have the discipline to not drink it by mistake while you're waiting for it to be ready, it will do really beautiful things with age. I think it's one of those, 2008, if you remember back, those of you who were tasting with me all through last year, we had a couple of wines, single vineyard Pinots from 2008 that were looking absolutely beautiful now. And 2008 was quite similar to the 2017, but a bit less expressive as a young wine. So I think that this 17's got the structure and the balance and the intensity to take it the whole journey of maturation if you want to go down that path. James, 2021 vintage is, and by the way, hello James, lovely to see you. Getting right into business now. So 2021, it's a bit of a weird year. We haven't had very many good beach days down here on the Mornington Peninsula this summer. We're having one today, of course, and one yesterday and one tomorrow. Now that we're just getting ready for vintage and can't go to the beach, it's just perfect beach weather right now. But things were looking really awesome. It was a really small crop. This year it was the right size. We didn't need to do a big green harvest, but we're feeling like we've got sort of a really nice crop level on all the vines. Everything was sort of ripening evenly and happily and doing what it was supposed to do. And then 3 Fridays ago, I think, Melbourne, grey, wet, rainy weather for a few days. Then it kind of cleared up and then it got rainy and grey again. So we've had sort of 3 weeks of very uneven weather, and that's okay. But because we've got the nets on the vines now so that the birds don't eat the grapes, we have to be aware that there's some disease pressure, which means that we just need to keep an eye on things. What we are seeing is beautiful flavour development with really lovely natural acidity in the grapes. So I think that if we can avoid too much mildew or mold in the vineyard, which so far the vineyard has been looking super healthy. So it has some resilience against those wet weather events, but it only has so much resilience in 1 year. So lovely vintage. As I say, the flavours are beautiful. The structure, the acids and the sugars are looking really good. So once the fruits start coming off the vine, I'll be able to report back to you in the next few weeks about what the flavours are looking like and how it's all kind of evolving. It certainly didn't look like it was going to fall off a cliff anytime soon. So if you've got it safely put away, it will still benefit it'll still benefit being aged for a bit longer. It's, the magnums, they're fickle things, aren't they? You kind of think, well, when's the right time to open them? Don't leave them for too long, but they'll be fine for another 5-10 years probably. But I would probably drink them in the next 5, because I don't like the wines being too I don't like them being too old, because then you kind of lose the vibrancy and the vivacity of the wine. I think and yes, it would be lovely to, I agree, Katie, it'd be lovely to have a little refill of those magnums. We do make them in really small quantities. We'll be releasing the 16s later in the year. So they will be made available just to our wine club members, and you guys should all be in the wine club by now. If you're not getting your wine club, if you haven't got evidence of being in the wine club, then please get in contact with Jeff or me sometime soon, and we'll make sure that you're on. At the moment, it's all we're doing it all manually, so it does take a little while, but I think we've hopefully, Jeff, I think we've captured this gang, and we would like you all to be our guests in the wine club, at least for the next year. See whether you like it, see whether it's worth your while. The other thing that I was going to mention with regards to the wine club, and of course you guys, is going to be a little bit more stable into the future. We're hoping to release our first Jill's Sunday lunch on the 28th of March. So if you're I don't know whether we're going to be able to travel interstate by then. So for those of you in New South Wales and Queensland and anywhere else that you are not Victoria, I don't know whether you'll be able to pop down to come along. But for those of you who are interested, pop it in your diary. It will be a Shiraz lunch. There'll be some white wine as well, but we'll be focusing on the Shiraz. So that's the big news, and we have a whole diary full of events planned for this year that we're kind of just going to be releasing over the next little while, which will be super fun. Angela having a Dramland IPA. Good work. So lots of excitement for 2021. We're going to keep meeting here on a Thursday night for as long as you guys keep coming back. I'll be here. It's going to be a bit weird for the next few weeks because we will be vintage, so I won't be looking quite as groomed in the next little while. I'll be covered in wine, and I'll try to remember to put my lippy on before I come and join you. But yes, vintage, and hopefully if I can get my technology working, I might even be able to do a drinks with Kate out in the winery in the near future on a Thursday, because that'll be fun, and get the boys involved. And you can have a little look at what we're doing in the winery making the wine. What else? Next week. Have I missed any questions? Oh, Alison, I knew there was a question. Magnum is different to drinking in a bottle. So Alison, the big difference is that wine ages more slowly in a Magnum. It's a physics thing. It's something to do with surface area versus volume and blah, blah, blah. So wine ages differently in a Magnum to a bottle. It tends to age more slowly and seems to develop better complexity in a Magnum than it does in a bottle. It's also just sexy to have a double-sized bottle when you have a party and you've got enough people around to drink it. So it's a bit of showmanship, but there is some science behind Magnums being a bit special for aging wine and for making wine look good. So that's why we released those Magnums with some age on them, because if we were releasing the Magnums that were the same age as the 750ml bottles of the single vineyard, they look really tight and really hard, and they're not very enjoyable when they're a bit too young. So yes, absolutely more sexy, Alison, from a Magnum always, and champagne as well. The champagne houses always say, and glass of champagne from a Magnum, it always feels more special, and maybe it's just the psychology of the big bottle, but I do think it tastes better as well, fresher and more complex and delicious. I think Jeff, I'll stop it. All right, Jeff has got really cheesy now. So Anne-Marie's in. Excellent, good, excellent. I'm getting a bit scared of this whole cheese thing. Anyway, so next week so the whole point of this current box is that we're revisiting some of the early wines that we looked at last year, partly because I thought that a lot of you hadn't joined yet, but quite a few of you had. So also there was someone, hopefully it will be warm again next week. And I will come up with another theme for you, and Pinot Grigio, and maybe giving some recommendations of Italian style versus French style and what we're talking about there. So we'll have a bit of a chat about that next week. And if you actually want to do a French Pinot Gris and Italian Pinot Grigio tasting sometime down the track, we can certainly do that as kind of maybe an in the break kind of a tasting. We'll work towards that. So anything like that, bit of COVID Chianti, yes, absolutely, Craig. Lovely to see you again, everyone. Great to have you back, Shell. Great to see everyone. Sorry, Kate. Next week we are doing Devil Bean Creek Pinot Gris. So delving into the Pinot Gris, Pinot Grigio question. I will send an email on Monday to just give you some suggestions for some foods, and hopefully it'll be a lovely warm evening, and we can enjoy a nice crisp glass of Pinot Gris and talk about the difference between Pinot Gris and Pinot Grigio. Until then, I'm going to let you all go. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy your freedom, Victoria. Go out and click your heels and enjoy the sunshine. And